All right. Well, we're back at it, trying to get this to work. Hopefully everything goes as planned tonight. We'll see how well this works out. It's been a while since we've streamed, and I decided for some reason to change the streaming software as well. So you never quite know what is going to happen. Anyways, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to work on an AWS service that I've been interested in trying out for a while now. It's called the AWS Fault Injection Simulator, and the idea is we can run experiments, controlled experiments, to test the resiliency and the performance of our environment. So this is how it works, right? What we do is we create what's called an experiment template, and that template is then basically executed against supporting services. We can do things like down here, right? We can run stress tests, we can turn things off, we can simulate network failures. There's a bunch of different things we can do here. I think for today we'll keep it simple and try to get the environment set up and running, and maybe do a stress test on a CPU or something like that. Try to simulate some scaling. So what I thought we would try to set up is a simple VPC with a web server and some scaling, and we'll just see how far we get in it tonight. Okay, fingers crossed that we don't run into too many technical difficulties as we do this. Okay, so we'll refer back to this a couple times. I was hoping to get this set up a little further along, but one of those days today. So what we have right now is pretty much nothing at this point. So we've got one VPC here, but this VPC is actually being used for something else right now. So I thought what we could do is start by creating a new VPC, set that all up in CloudFormation, try to get some basic stuff done, and see if we can get to the fault injection stuff later in the stream. Okay, so let's start with this. And if I flip over to here, what I did was I set up just a little skeleton code here for our GitLab environment. And it was funny, I went back and I started looking at this since we did our last building with CloudFormation stream a while ago. And it's amazing how much I've forgotten of what we used to do. I'm hoping this all works out. So let's set up the structure of this. So we're going to go up here, and kind of the way I do this now is change it a little bit from what we used to do. So I'm going to set it up kind of the way we do projects now. Under modules, I'm going to create a bunch of directories that we'll use for all of our templates. And our main CI script here, we'll just run the validation, and then instead of putting all the deploy logic in one place, we're going to separate that. And for now, I'll just call it deploy YAML. Doesn't really matter, right? And then underneath all of these, actually, let's do this first. So we're going to say security, and we'll start with our favorite IAM. And I looked in the documentation a little earlier on, and it looks like what we need to do here is we've got the FIS service. It's going to be making API calls on our behalf to other AWS services. I think, as I mentioned already, tonight we'll just keep this really simple. So we'll do maybe just an EC2 call. So we're going to need a role with a permissions document that allows FIS to perform the actions that we want to do based on the experiment. Now, the one thing I'm going to cheat here a little bit. I'm going to grab a couple templates that we can at least use as starting points. So let me just grab that. Bear with me a sec. I'm going to go back to one of our old demo projects that we did here and see if there's just something that will get us started. Sure, we must have an old IAM template that we can use. Yeah, here we go. Okay. If you remember a while back, we did a WordPress deployment, and here we go. This is the structure. So we'll change this. We're just going to say create IAM resources for building with CloudFormation Twitch, I don't know, session. Okay, that's good. We'll leave all of these the same. We don't need any stack references at this point, and this is kind of what I think we need for now, at least. We're going to create a role, so let's name some of these. Let's actually do it like this. We're going to first create, what does this do? Yeah, this is a really basic one. We can leave all of this, and for now, I'm going to leave the policy there for a placeholder we can build off of. Yeah, so we're going to say. And all I want in here is the SSM managed instance core, which will let us basically use SSM to get onto this machine. That's all I want to do with this for now. So that's fine. We'll leave all this. We need a profile. So the profile here is how we will associate the EC2, sorry, not the EC2, the role with an EC2 instance. So let's change this. We're just going to call this EC2 role. Make the names a little better, right? And we're going to go down here and say this depends on EC2 role, like that. Okay. And again, we can leave this. Let's call this EC2 role. And we want to pull that in here. ARN. That's our, what is this? Okay, so this is the ID for our instance profile. This is the ARN for instance profile. We may need those later on. So that's a good start. This policy isn't being used, but we're going to use it for something else. So I'm going to create another role. Do I want to create another role? No, that doesn't make sense. What we want is we want a policy, managed policy, that we can associate with our EC2 role, and we'll assign this to each of the EC2 instances that we're going to build, and that should give FIS the access that it needs, in theory. Okay. The question is which, well, we can change this first. This is the easy part. IAM Now, if we flip back here, here we go, and we go under this, there should be a documentation link here. Blog. No documentation link. Features, pricing. Well, you know, we could look at the blog. This is the release blog, and I wonder if they give us an example to get started. See here, this is, in this example, they're stopping instances as part of the test. Are they showing us a role anywhere? Doesn't look like it. Okay, so let's do this. AWS fault injection documentation. There we go. When all else fails, right? So user guide. So here's run a CPU stress test on an instance. So these are just some examples of what we can do. Okay, so here we go. Prerequisites. What do we need to do before we can run a stress test? Create a role and attach a policy that enables FIS to use the send command action. Okay, and then there's this documentation. Oh yeah, we will need two roles because the first role is for us to get on the EC2 instance, but then we need FIS to do some work for us. So okay, let's do it like this. We'll go step by step. Okay, so this is our EC2 role, and let's do FIS role. this will be, we could just cut and paste from this. And in here, I think it was just FIS. Yeah, fis.amazonaws.com needs to assume the role. Okay, so that's fine. And we'll say I am used role by FIS, right? That's basic. And I'm sure this is going to need a policy. Oh, okay, yeah, I forgot about this. So if you've never seen this before, Amazon's recommending doing this in your role assumptions now. So to avoid confused deputy issues. So we've got the source account is the owner of the experiment, and the source ARN is the ARN of the experiment. For example, you could add the following condition block to your trust policy. So the source account is our 12-digit account ID, and the ARN looks like this. Okay, so we can build this out. This is relatively easy as well. So we could just do something like, I'm gonna pull Firefox over here so I can see it at the same time. Just gonna copy this example. So string equals AWS source account, and instead of hard coding our account ID here, we will use a actually I don't need a sub, I need a ref here. So we'll say ref, and this is AWS account ID, so we can sub that in when we run it. And then the other one is ARN like, it's AWS source ARN. And I'm going to cut and paste this, but we'll sub some things into it. So we're going to say sub that. And we'll change this out for whatever region we're running this in, which is actually a good point. We should check the region availability for this, because I don't know, is this available in the Canadian region? I don't know. So we should go check. Okay, so that's good. So that gives us our new role. We should update our outputs down here. So we'll do this. What did we call this? Just FIS role. Okay, FIS role. Just go with this ID. Let's just cut and paste this. Now this is going to be a problem. So we should do FIS role. We'll do EC2 role. Just put something else in these names so we can differentiate them. And this is actually, let's get rid of the zeros. Do it like that. Okay, and then we'll do FIS role ARN. This is get. We'll just copy this piece. Like that. Okay, so that sets up the role. And then all it says in the documentation is that we need, where did that go? Over here. We need simply to allow it for a stress test. We need to allow, right here, AWS SSM send command actions on our behalf. Oh, okay. So there's some built-in policies. I wonder if we could use this. If we go over here, let's have a look at what it is allowing. If we go to IAM, and we go policies, search for this. Actually, sorry, search over here. Maybe. There we go. So rebooting instances. Oh, you can simulate a spot instance interruption. Start, stop, terminate, KMS. Oh, there we go, SSM send command. This is overkill for what we want to do. If we're just going to do this simple CPU, but this also allows us to do some other experiments. So I think for now, this is probably good enough. We could always tighten this up if we decided, hey, you know, we're never going to do anything other than a stress test. So then we could just snip this piece out. But for now, let's use this whole thing. So what we can do is just grab the ARN, go back over here, and in the role here, under Manage Policy ARNs, we could put that in. Perfect. All right. Why don't we take this and we'll run it through, path has got to be different. So modules, security, IAM. So that's our validate. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to say include, and this is overkill for what we're doing here, but it's kind of the way I set up all my projects now. So we'll say deploy YAML, and then I'm going to borrow again from our other project. Let me find it. I just want to get a little snippet of deploy code so we don't have to build it all from scratch. So we will put this here, and I don't know why it doesn't like that. Okay, hang on one sec. See if we can find another sample here. Sorry, I'm just trying to find a script that we can at least use as a starting point. Yeah, okay, this is better. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this. We're going to say dot demo variables, and then we'll say at demo variables, so we can pull these in. I'll just put a to-do placeholder. I'm not quite sure what I want there right now. And then we're going to say deploy IAM. Okay, so this is just stage. I don't know what we called our stage, just deploy. Okay, well, we won't worry about an only statement. Let me cut and paste this. Yeah, I'm not quite sure why it's doing this. Why it's doing the underline. Does it give us some indication of what is wrong here? Yeah, forget the variable. Deploy IAM is not allowed. Okay, so we don't really have... We don't need any need for this right now, so let's get rid of that. This is the stuff that's always weird to me, is like, this is how we set all these up. Remove prohibited property, deploy IAM. Okay. Let's just let it air and see what it does. So module security IAM, we got to pass in a stack name, so we don't have application environment variables set. Okay, so we've got environment, and we'll just call this application, we'll call it FIS. Okay. And then we've got, so this is going to be, the stack name will be fis.development.iam, and then blah, 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 blah. Now, we don't have any, we're not naming any of these IAM resources. Let's just check that actually. We only need that function or that attribute if we actually have hard-coded names here, and we don't. So we can get rid of this. Yeah, this is really weird. Profile. Okay, so let's just do this. We'll go over here. We'll commit this. I'm sure it'll err on us since this is the first commit, and we'll see what happens. And if we go back over to Firefox, let me just find this project again. Okay, so here we go. And yes, of course, we've got an error. So what did we do wrong? Deploy IAM config should implement a script or a trigger keyword. Oh, do I have? Oh, I see why this is complaining. Look at it's a tab issue from the bad cut and paste. There we go. So now we've got stage variables script. That looks right, which I would have thought. Okay, let's just commit this again and see what happens. Okay, so we've got an error here. Import value in IAM. Again, the cut and paste gods strike again. So let's go over here. I must have something left over. Yeah, oh, okay. So yeah, we're not importing anything here. We're not using the import function, so we can get rid of that. Still another one. Okay, this is import again. Oh, this is the policy that I was using as a placeholder that we don't need. So let's just nuke the whole thing. There we go. Unresolved dependent. Oh man. So now we've got policy 0 referenced here somewhere. Yeah, okay. Get rid of this. Let me just make this policy 0. Okay, so now there's 0 policy zeros. There we go. So validation ran. And what do we do here? We've got a problem with the AWS command. Usage, AWS -h profile. Debug. Profile expected 1 argument. Okay, so $profile. Oh, look, we called it project here. Yay. So, okay, so we need profile, which should be CO demo, our demo account. And we do normally have project, which in this case would be demo. What did I call the project? Fault injector. Fault injector. Bear with me one sec. All right, perfect. Okay, so the first deploy is always the worst. Access denied when calling assume role, blah, blah, blah. User GitLab is not authorized to perform on that. Well, that's interesting. Maybe that issue has to do with... Let me just check the profile name here. This I can't share, So just bear with me a second as I just poke around here a minute. You'll get to look at the exciting PyCharm IDE. What did it say? Let me just check to make sure it's just not a bad profile name. 3735. 3735 is not authorized to perform. It doesn't look like that role exists anymore. What we have is a central GitLab server that assumes roles in our accounts to do these deploys, and it's like that isn't there. Let me check it again. It is not here. Okay. We can fix this, but it's just going to take a minute. Let me find the code that we use to just have a little chunk of code that we run in these accounts. I wonder what happened to that. Role. That's odd. We ran some cleanup scripts in our demo account. I wonder if it was maybe a little too aggressive on the cleanup. Just trying to find the project. Okay, here we go. Yeah, that's not going to do it. Okay, hang on. We're just going to borrow this from another account. Another account that we've deployed in recently that worked no problem. Let me just check our account. So here's the template. Let me just run this template again in this account. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to create this file temporarily. We'll just throw it into, it doesn't even matter. We're just going to go like this. We're going to call it the CloudFormation YAML. Paste this in here. We do not need this, which means we can get rid of that. All right, so this is fine. This will do the trick for us. And let me just run this manually for the time being. We can rerun our deploy scripts later to figure out what happened. Go over to the demo account, and let me just get this set up. And that's really weird. This also means we're going to have to go and just modify the GitLab configuration as well, because it picks up the role ARN to do the deploys. Okay, no, this is here. Maybe there's just a typo somewhere. Okay, bear with me a second. I gotta hop on a machine and see if we can fix this. Let me cut and paste a couple things here. Okay, so it looks like the stack is still here, but the cleanup script ran in our demo account. We use it for training and everything, and it obviously picked the role up that it shouldn't have and deleted it. That's why it seems like it's here, but it isn't. Okay, so let's clean up that. And then what we're going to do is I'm just going to redeploy this stack. And then that way we've got this set up properly. Give me a sec. So we are Curious Orbit, Cloud Formation, Injector. Okay. Run that. Oh, it's not quite right. There's a reference to something in here still. Oh yeah, this depends on thing. All right, and we need an external ID. How do I want to do this? Okay, so that's deploying. Once this is deployed, we have to jump onto our GitLab, our runner, and just make the changes there. And I can't show you that either because it's got a bunch of configs in it for various accounts. So I'll just let this run. And then once this is done, I'll jump over there and then we can get back to our regular programming here. If I had found some time this afternoon to at least run through this little test I wanted to do, and at least I would have been able to see this ahead of time and avoid this during the stream. Okay, that's that. We've got that. Okay, we're getting close. We're getting close. Give me another couple minutes. So the runner config is in our this account. So that's fine there. And all we need to do is change a couple pieces of info in the config, and then we should, in theory, be back in business. So we need the ARN of the role, and then we pass in some additional info. Whoops, undo that. Okay, so I think we're back in business. Let's see what happens here. If we go back to our demo account, actually we can go back to our project in GitLab. Let me just find that and I'll show you what I've been attempting to do. Okay. What did I call this now? There we go, fault injector. So this failed because I didn't have my role set up properly. Let's run it again. I've just run the whole pipeline again. So we're gonna go back over here. Run. Fingers crossed that I have it set up properly this time. Yeah, it failed again. Okay, so this is different. There we go. Project must have values. So that's where we set up that project variable, but didn't actually pass it in. So see this right here? And the problem is in our deploy script right in here, even though it's all underlined for some reason, I have to say project equals $project just to pass that variable in as a parameter. So let's do that. Oh, this file, I'm going to delete this. We don't need this in this project. It was a quick placeholder. Okay, there we go. I don't know if you can see in the background. It's pretty dark right there, but I've got one of the cats sitting here with me today, and he seems to be getting a little restless there in the corner, which probably means he's going to start bothering us shortly. Oh my God. Capability IAM. Oh, of course. I'm rushing here because I was like, oh, I didn't get this done, so I wanted to see if I could catch up quickly, and now it's doing the exact opposite. So, you know, when you're in the CloudFormation console, if you're doing this deployment through the console, if you're creating any resources within, or resources, what am I trying to say? If you're using CloudFormation to create resources in IAM, there we go. We have to acknowledge that we understand we're creating IAM resources, because when we're creating those resources, we're giving somebody or something access to our account. And there's two ways to do it. You can name your resources, like assign a static name to like a role or something like that. And if you do that, you have to use capability named IAM. But you still have to acknowledge in your CloudFormation deployment script that you are creating IAM resources. And I just blew that whole line away, if you remember. So what we need to do is just jump back over here and do this, -- capabilities, if I can spell it, is that, okay? And that should fix the next error. Famous last words, right? Let's see if we got lucky this time and it works. Okay, didn't error immediately. Hey, success. So it's creating our change set now. Which means if we go back over here and we go to CloudFormation, there we're deploying in CA Central 1. I should check this actually before we go too far. Let's do this. AWS service support by region. This should give us a not easy to use list, but it'll do the trick. We'll go Canada, and then let's just search for fault. Okay, it's there. Perfect. So that's no problem then. I wish there was a, I don't know how you would change this list, but I guess you could always just search in the page. Look at all this stuff, right? Okay, so that's fine. Let's go here, and we're just adding some stuff. So hopefully this will work in the actual deployment. This is why, great example of why you need to leave yourself more time than you think for creating your infrastructure as code templates. Doesn't matter if it's CloudFormation or something else. The first iteration I find always takes the longest, and then once you get kind of everything ironed out, it goes a little faster. Okay, that's a good sign. Okay, that should be good. We'll let that run. In the meantime, what I want to do is we've got to create some other resources. So let's go over here. Let's close a couple of these things down. We'll leave the GitLab open. We'll leave the deploy open. And what we're going to do is we're going to go in here. We're going to create a VPC template. And for this, I'm going to borrow from our Orbit build repo, which is essentially just a repo pre-built templates. And I'm going to grab the 2AZ template. And we're going to copy all of this. Now, this, again, famous last word, should work, right? And we'll just say here, what did we call the other template? I want to just use the same description. Create, yeah. So we'll go up here, create VPC resources. For now, this just creates a standard VPC across 2 availability zones. It creates public subnets, private subnets, and what we call a protected subnet. You could use a protected subnet for something like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a database or something like that. Basically, the protected subnet, its route table doesn't have any routes outside of the VPC. So in theory, you could put something in there that could communicate with anything else in the VPC, but it has no connectivity to the outside world, like through the internet or through a VPN connection, even through like routing something through a NAC gateway or anything like that. It doesn't have the capabilities to do that. So that's a nice secure location for everything. So we're going to do we're going to do public, private, protected. That's fine. And then all we have to do is go here. We'll add our validation script, which would be networking VPC. Okay. And then under here, we can go, oh geez, where am I going? I want to go to the deploy script. And we'll say deploy dash VPC. Yeah, I wonder what I've done wrong here. I don't know. This looks right to me. I must just be missing something basic, because it doesn't, my brain's not telling me what's wrong here. Okay. Oops, yeah, I did that again. Gotta get this extra space in here. It's hard to look at. VPC, say networking. I had this happen one time before when we were doing a stream like this, and I don't know what it was. It was like the next time we tried it, it just worked fine. Okay, so no executes, parameter overrides, environment, application, project. Here's our tags. We definitely do not need capabilities IAM. Now, I think if I recall this template, there's a lot of parameters that go into the template, but we've got defaults set for it all. My only problem is it won't matter for today, but it won't look great in the console. I have that existing VPC that I'm using for a training session that I don't want to delete because we've got one more day in the training session, and my habit is always just to use 1098. So we will have overlapping CIDRs, but for what we're doing today, this is fine. Okay, so that's good. Let's just go over here and we'll say perfect. Okay, good. Looks a little better. And normally for deploying a VPC, we're going to do things like VPC flow logs, we're going to do VPC endpoints, whether they're gateway endpoints, interface endpoints, whatever it is that we need for the project. But since we're already, 45 minutes in and we're kind of a little behind, I think what we're going to do for today is we're going to kind of not deploy some of those things in an attempt to get to the injector example and see if we can actually build that rather than mess around with just setting up our VPC. Although, like I said, in real life, we would make sure that this thing adheres to standards and clears a lot of the security hub checks when we deploy it. But I feel rushed. Let's go over here, run that, and it'll create that for us. Okay. Now the question is, how do we best tackle this? Do we take the time to build CloudFormation templates? We're going to need a couple more things. So we need an auto-scaling group to deploy a couple web servers, right? That's the first part. I've got a web server AMI, which I think we can use for the most part with some basic changes to it. I think, yeah, I think that would work no problem. Just has a static text page and stuff like that. So we would need an auto scaling group to deploy that and a load balancer. And again, maybe what we can do, depending on how far we make it, is we can always come back and kind of tighten this up a little bit. Like some of the VPC things I mentioned, we're gonna not bother with right now. But even things like, you know, adding ACM, a certificate, an SSL cert to the load balancer and stuff like that. So maybe what we can do, yeah, let's build it out. Let's build out. We're going to need a launch template, an auto scaling group. We're going to have to double check our AMI to make sure that it actually, for now, can even just load a, you know, an index.html that says nothing to see here kind of thing, right? And then we need a load balancer in front of it. Once we get those 3 or 4 things done, then what we're able to do, or what we can do, is look at the fault injection piece and see if we can get that set up to do the CPU stress test. Okay, my thought is with the CPU stress test, if we had an auto scaling policy in our auto scaling group, we should be able to validate that scaling policy does what you want, because it should scale out, add resources, and scale in, remove resources based on the level of stress that we throw at that EC2 instance. That's what I'm thinking. Okay. So I'll tell you what, let's do this. Let's go to EC2. And you can see we've got 2 elastic IPs. These are already going on the NAC gateways. They're being deployed. Here is, oh, I'm in the Canadian region. I don't have that AMI here. It's in US East 1. We could do this. So we just created this today. Just copy this, and we'll copy it to Canada. Okay. All right, so that should do the trick for this guy. There it is. Okay. And I think what we should do is we could create a launch template very quickly, and then at least make sure that the EC2 instance launches, and we could do a quick test to make sure that Apache is running and that we have access to that basic index.html file. So we know that when we launch it through an auto scaling group with a load balancer in front of it, it passes the health checks. Otherwise, then we're going to be troubleshooting. Okay, so I think that's what we'll do. Always takes longer when you're watching. Never fails. Is our VPC deployed? Yeah, okay, there's our VPC. Oh yeah, of course, we won't have 2 VPCs here because we're using different regions. I'm doing the training session in US East 1, and we're working in CA Central 1, so another crisis averted. So we've got our basic VPC up and running, and then if we can get this AMI copied, pending. Okay, while we're waiting for that, we did this a while ago. I'm pretty sure we did a demo session with launch templates. So I wonder if we could just quickly reuse one of those templates if I could find it. Yeah, here's the launch template one. Yeah, this will do. We're going to change the names and stuff like that, and we're going to tighten some of the things up that we did in here. But this will do. Let's at least get us started so we don't have to type all of this from scratch. All right, let me show you what I've got here. Okay, so we'll go here. We'll create this. We'll say compute, and we'll say EC2 YAML, not EC2. Let's try that again. Right, and this is that sort of basic template that we had Did this in the stream a while ago, so we'll do this. Create EC2. Here's our parameters. We're going to slice this up pretty good, and we're going to use, I'm pretty sure when I created that image, the AMI, it was for Graviton processor. I'll double check, so we're going to change this. This can be the same, this can be, let's get rid of these for the time being. And we'll dump these mappings down to only CA Central for now. We've created the instance role, the instance profile in another stack. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to create a security group, or we're going to create it in another stack as well. And let's get rid of the word demo. We'll just call it launch template. Hey Kevin, how are you? Get rid of these. We're not going to add any block device mapping outside of the one that is in the AMI, so we can get rid of that. Instance profile, I'm going to put a to-do placeholder here because we got to change that. This can come from up top. We're going to require version 2 of metadata, monitoring. This we're going to put a placeholder in because we're going to create those security groups somewhere else. Our tag specifications. Okay, that's fine. And then here's our EC2 instance. So let's do this. We're going to call it, we'll just call it web server. And it relies on what we called launch template. That's that. And this, we'll pull this in as well. So we'll say to do there. Launch template. I think that's fine. Okay. Oh, this name needs to change. Okay. How you doing tonight, Kevin? Okay, so perfect. Now these we can pull in from the other templates. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a cross-stack reference. So we're going to say, we're going to need a couple templates. So we're going to say VPC stack. We'll say type string, and we'll say, what was the other one we need? IAM stack. Whoops. And type, there we go. Oh man, type string. Okay. I'll have to look up the import value command. I always forget it. And then we can pull these in here. Okay, so let's actually do that now. Let me just see if I can find a quick example of an import command. We should have one of those in a previous deployment of some sort. Let's see if I can find one. Huh. Isn't that funny? I don't have... Oh, here we go. Got one. Okay, I'll show you what I mean. So this is what the command looks like. So we're going to pass in the stack name, and then we need the output data. If we go to our IAM, sorry, what was that? That was the instance profile. So if we scroll to the bottom, we want the ARN for our IAM instance profile, and that's just this. So we should be able to do that. Whoops, without the double dash. There we go. Okay, all good. Winding down from the evening. Hey, yeah, there you go. Well, welcome. It's good to see you. I need to change the image IDs, but we'll come back to those. Instance types, we need to change the instance type. Oh, this is the other thing. So we're going to go like this. And we'll say this comes from a stack that we don't have created yet. SG stack. So we'll separate all of our security groups into their own stack. Okay, and we'll just call this, we'll just call it EC2-ID for now. And then down here, This is the subnet where we're going to deploy this. It's going to come from the VPC stack. And I think it's probably going to be like private subnet 0 or private subnet 1. So if we scroll to the bottom of this, yeah, see right here, we'll dump our instances into the private subnet. Okay, so perfect. What we're missing is the security group. So we're going to go over here. We're going to create security YAML. And we're going to, again, borrow heavily from somewhere else. And this will do the trick. Strangely, I was already loaded this guy up. Okay, so here we go. I'm missing the template format version at the top. You don't need it, but I don't know. Just to me, it never looks right without it. Grab this. Go over here and say SG. Now, we're not going to do all of this stuff. We're going to keep this really simple. So all we need is the VPC stack to be passed in. That's all the same. And we're going to get rid... Actually, we can leave these because we're going to need a load balancer later on. What is this? What am I looking at here? Well, that's interesting. This is like a mixed template again that we did earlier on. So let's get rid of everything except this. And we're going to call this, we're just going to call it EC2 SG0. And our description is security, let's just do EC2 security group for FIS Twitch demo. And we actually, for now, are going to allow nothing inbound. How do we want to do this? I want to do this. Well, if we think about what we do need a load balancer at some point. That's going to be the entry point. So why don't we actually do this? Create this or copy this. We'll call this ALB SG0. And we'll call this the ALB security group. And we want to allow inbound on port 80 and port 443. That's perfect. This is a valid reference. And then what we want to do here is we want to change this. We only need a single rule here. And this becomes, I always forget this one. Let's look this up. So if we just pull up the CloudFormation documentation, it's source security group ID, I think it is. Here. Right, so we don't want CIDR notation. We're chaining these security groups together. So we want this one. Okay, that's what we're after. So what we can do is change this, and we can say refer to that. And that'll pull in the SG ID from that guy. And we'll just say depends on that. Okay, so now we've got the ALB security group. It's going to allow port 80 and 443 from the internet. And then we've got our EC2 security group, which is allowing inbound on port 80 from only the load balancer. Perfect. Then we just need to fix this. So we'll say ALB SG0. The value of this is just going to be ref ALB SG0. And the export, we'll copy this from our other template that we've already got exports on. Do this. And oops. We'll just do ALB ID. Okay, that'll work. And then we'll copy this again and do EC2 SG0. EC2 SG0, and we'll just say EC2. Okay, so that's perfect. And what we can then do is go back over here. Oh, I called this EC2 ID. What did I do over here? Oh yeah, EC2 ID. So that's fine. All right. We can grab these and say modules security SG. And then we've got modules compute EC2. And then we just have to add these to our deploy script, which is getting increasingly annoying. Hang on, I gotta just have a look at another project and see if we've just, was there just a weird typo at the beginning of this or something? Variables, stages. Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. Stage variables. Very weird. I don't know. Okay, well, anyways, we're going to do this. We're going to say deploy. Actually, let's just copy all this again. Deploy SG. And we're going to put an extra thing in here. We're going to say needs job. Basically, we don't want to deploy our SG job until we have our VPC up and running. So we'll say security SG. And this needs some inputs. So we're going to go in here and say VPC stack is this. Parameter overrides. So we'll say VPC stack equals VPC stack. I think that's all we need in the security group. If we go up to the top, yeah, so that's the piece we need to pass in, just the name of the VPC stack that we're going to use as the input. So that's okay there. And then we can take this and say deploy EC2. This becomes EC2. Oh, see this? I didn't change this name. That's SG. It needs, our EC2 template needs a few. Oh, we can get rid of that. It needs a VPC stack, an SG stack, and an IAM stack. Okay, so we've got VPC, SG stack, that, and then IAM stack is that, and then down here we can just do, whoops, what is it? SG stack equals SG stack. Okay. We got to change this. So this is compute EC2. Oh, see what I just did? Oh, man. Putting all of this in the wrong spot. So that needs to go down here. Okay. And then we can try that again. So SG stack equals SG stack. And IAM stack equals IAM stack, right? And then this needs to change to compute EC2. And we're going to add a few other requirements here. So we'll say job, you need the VPC, you need SG, and you need IAM. Okay. I wonder if it's just the fact. Yeah, I don't know what. It's so weird. I don't know. It works. It's ugly to look at, but it works. This needs to change like that. Okay. Let's see what happens. Oh, we need to do one other thing over here. These need to be changed. So we're going to change these to T4G small, and we're going to allow T4G smalls, T4G mediums, and I think there's a T4G large. We can check that in the console. The other thing that we need is we need to change this machine image. So if we go back over here, yeah, this is the image, which should be there now. Okay, and we can just paste that here. Okay. Actually, let's just check those image types too. So I can say launch instance from AMI. Yeah, okay, so let's add these out. We're gonna add in some additional ones. We're gonna say allow T4G nano, T4G micro, and then we've got small, medium, large. I think that's fine. Okay. So great. So we'll just cancel that. And then back in the editor, we will say I figured it wouldn't work. There's far too many changes. So, okay, deploy SG, undefined need, application environment VPC. I think I did this before. I'm blaming any typos. Not that we ever have any. Yeah, the pumpkin spice. You got it. That's funny. Too much pumpkin spice. I think I've done this before in here, and it doesn't like in the... Where did it go? In these... So what was it complaining about? SG stack, undefined application environment VPC. See, this is the stack name here. Variables, VPC stack. It's odd. I'm pretty sure I've done this before. Oh, down here. Right here. Well, you know, for today, to try to play a little catch up, what this is all this is doing is it's creating a basically a dependency map in GitLab. I'll check to see how we do it somewhere else, but I don't want to get too bogged down. So basically what it says is, hey, deploy this stack before you deploy the other stack, because the other stack requires something from the first stack. So it's just a way to kind of help us with some of the deployment logic. But I've been playing catch up the whole night, right? So we're just going to remove these. Actually, let me just make sure. Undefined need, yeah. So we're just going to remove these need statements here as a way to see if we can get this done. It'll probably still error for a different reason, but we'll see. I don't know, today was the first day here that it actually started to feel cold. The wind here was really cold today. Had the office window open, and about midday I had to get up and close it because I was sitting here. I'm like, yeah, that's not warm anymore. I think summer's finally gone. So see how here we've got the validate stage and the deploy stage, and it's just kind of doing everything in parallel, which is fine for a small little deployment. But as you add more and more stacks in here, or even forget the terminology from CloudFormation, but when we add more and more stages, what can happen is we can reduce the amount of time it takes to deploy in GitLab by setting up those dependencies. Sometimes it could be significant, sometimes it won't really make much of a difference. So in larger projects, we always set up those need statements, and it builds you out. Like if I had something here, we could see a little dependency graph, and it would show you how they're all linked together. I don't know what I'm typing wrong in that, but it's been one of those nights. So this is all deployed. Let's go over here, go back to CloudFormation, and we should have two new stacks, SG and EC2. This should have our two security groups in it in the CloudFormation, the change set, ALB and EC2. So let's do that. And we've since the EC2 stack relies on this, we got to wait for this one to finish. No export named. Oh, look, this is a bad cut and paste. So we need the VPC ID for basically the way that we associate the security groups are tied to particular subnets, right? So I've just got a bad cut and paste. Let's go have a quick look at that. If we look at the VPC template, see this? Yeah, we've shortened up some of these names. So in this case, if you're looking for the VPC ID, all you have to do is pass the stack name itself. There's no extension. So if I go back over here, see how it's changed across a couple of the different templates? So we can just get rid of those VPC stack IDs. And let me deploy the stack that failed, or sorry, delete the stack that failed. And here we'll just say fix typo in VPC stack reference. Okay. Let's see how far we get this time. Let's check our pipeline. Did our pipeline fail for some reason? No? Okay. I'm just impatient. There we go. It's going. Okay, there we go. Let's try this again. Okay, didn't fail immediately. It's always a good sign. Okay, there we go. There's our load balancer security group. There's our EC2 security group. Okay, perfect. Okay, that's good. Now, let's see what happens here. Because we need to pull in those output values, right? Oh, so this is just creating the launch template, and it is going to create a single EC2 instance for us. We'll use this just to verify, and then we'll blow away the EC2 instance reference. We'll set up a load balancer, and then we'll set up an auto-scaling group. And then I think at that point, we're ready to actually try the fault injection service. Okay, good. And we're going to do a super simple test on this load balance or on the web server. All I'm going to do is I'm going to run a curl command locally on it just to make sure the port's open, you know, that Apache has the rights it needs to load up our silly index page. That's perfect. So if we go to EC2, here's our newly created EC2 instance. I love these names. I definitely have to spend some time on our tagging. FIS development -EC2 development drives me crazy. Okay, so we're gonna say connect. Let's see. You've been getting back into the cloud space. I like some of the console. Yeah, they've done a few little changes here and there. You know, I know console people are like, oh, you shouldn't do it like that, but it does what you need to do. Okay, so this is concerning. Why is Session Manager not working? It might just be that I'm jumping the gun here a little bit and that EC2 instance hasn't completely come to life yet. Did I add a role to it? Yeah, there's the role. Let's just check this role. All it needs is SSM managed instance core. Oh, look, I assigned the wrong role to it. So this doesn't have the ability. This is the role that we're going to use for FIS. What we need to do is we need to go back over here and fix this. I got to go here, launch templates. So see this one right here? I referred to the, no, that looks right. Let's check our IAM policy or IAM document. See this profile ARN? Okay, so that's referring to the EC2 instance profile. What did we do wrong? So that looks right to me, because see this? Here's the instance profile, and it's associating the EC2 role with the profile, and the EC2 role allows our EC2 service. Oh, right here, this is the problem. Yeah. Okay. I see what I've done wrong here. Yeah, we'll fix all of this in one shot. So up here, we need a description. Actually, I have a description with some weird spacing. Do that, okay. And then this, including the tags, this should all go, forgot the tags too, here. We want this fault injection simulator associated with the FIS role. Down here, I just cut and pasted this incorrectly. Let me find the actual policy document. And this one's another AWS managed one. And it's just called SSM Core. Here it is. So all we need is the ARN for this. We can put that there. Okay, so let's deploy this. That should fix the other issue. We will probably have to reboot that EC2 instance because by the time we're done, the SSM agent will try a bunch of times to connect to SSM and it'll just time out. And once it's timed out, as far as I know, it doesn't restart, doesn't try to do it again. So we're just going to say fix. Yeah. All right. to CloudFormation. Oh, dumped us into the wrong region. Go back over here. Okay, this does not look like the account we were just in. What is this? Parent template for install of configured specified component. I don't know what that is. I know what the application insights I'll show you the application insight, but why did that get deployed? Okay. Okay, let's fix this problem first. There's our new, so you can see we're modifying the existing roles. Application insights. What account are we in? We're in the right account, 3735. Application insight demo. I have no clue what that is. Okay, so that's that. What we're going to do is let's just check the security details here again. IAM. And what we should see now in this is, there we go. That's what I expected to see. So if we go back to the EC2 console, we go to instance, we go here, and we're just going to say reboot. Okay, and while that's doing that, let's go figure out what this is. $21.17. That's like 5 minutes ago. Did I deploy something that would have created all of this? I don't think so. Application insights, demo insights. That's very strange. So if we go to CloudWatch, what you're going to see is down the left-hand side here, insights, application insights, and this is what was deployed. This is this application insights dashboard. See this? Application insights, demo insights. This kind of stuff is that's really odd. I don't know what the heck that was. So what we could do, okay, we could do this. It's got to be something I just did. We'll go to CloudTrail. And see these here? We're going to go like this. We're going to say event name. We're going to go create stack. Okay, there it is right there. Create stack application insights. So this is the API call to CloudFormation to create a stack called, go in here, invoked by application insights. Oh, that is so weird. And then it get called again at 21:18, so a minute later. Okay. Username, application insights onboarding agent, or onboarding engine. So let's do one other thing here. We're going to go over here. We're going to go to username. Here it is. You can see it kind of being busy here from about 9 o'clock, longer maybe. Yeah, look, this is all the 26th. It's definitely been, I don't know, did I maybe not notice it before? It looks like it's been busy doing stuff for a long time. This is all still the 26th, which is today, right? Yeah. Oh, that's so weird. Goes on for pages and pages. 25th. So maybe it's been here the whole time and I just didn't realize it. I don't know, maybe what I was looking at in the CloudFormation console. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back over here. We're going to go here. Created today. Oh, so weird. Okay, so delete. Do we want to delete it this way? Let's try it this way. If we go to CloudWatch and we delete that application insights board or whatever they call it, that should delete. That should delete the CloudFormation stacks. I don't know. Okay, so that's currently deleting, and then I think if we go back over here, yeah, delete in progress. So weird. Okay, so we fixed IAM. And now if we say connect, there we go. Session manager is alive. Okay, so we can get to the EC2 instance. And like I mentioned, we're just going to run a few really basic commands. CTL, status, HTTPD, it's running, okay? The other thing we could do is just curl localhost, and we get a page, right? This is our fancy custom AMI. That's all we need. It does the trick, okay? So that should mean that if we launch an EC2 instance off of this AMI, it should, in theory, pass a health check from the load balancer saying, hey, can I load a page on port 80? That's all we really wanted to do. Okay. That means we can go back over here now and we can change up. How do we want to do this? I think we'll create our load balancer first, because we need a load balancer with an empty target group. And then what we can do in the auto scaling group is say, hey, when you launch a machine, associate it to this target group. Okay. We'll go here. We're going to create that here. And again, just to try to speed this process up, bear with me a second. I'm going to see if I can find a load balancer that we can use. I'm in an old Twitch stream project that we did years ago, and it looks like it's going to do most of what I need. It's got a target group set up. It's got a listener set up. Yeah, let's use this again. This is the same one that I, for whatever reason in my brain, was security group stuff, and it worked well. So we're going to just grab that. And we'll say deploy ALB resources. Now, we're not going to put a cert on it tonight, so we'll get rid of that. The security group is going to come from our security group stack, so we can get rid of that, but we need to add the reference up here. So SG stack is type string. We don't need the depends on since that's coming from another stack. It's internet facing. This we need to add later on. We've got these names need to change, and we can copy that from here. Yeah, this is the structure here. So we can just do, and in this case though, we want the ALB to be in the public subnet 0 and public subnet 1. Okay. There's a lot more things we can do to this load balancer to kind of make it a little more compliant. We may or may not come back. I'd really still like to just get the injector running tonight. Okay, so we got to fix that. Security group, health check, listener 1. Okay, so what we're going to do, see the listener here? What we do is if you come in on port 80, we redirect you to 443. And again, that's the way we should do it. But to get this working and tested tonight, what we're going to do is, I think we can blow this one away, and we'll just, if you come on port, if you make a connection on port 80, we'll just allow it for the time being. Okay, do this. This can stay the same. That can stay the same. There are no certs on this because it's port 80. We're just going to say if you make a connection on port 80, just forward it to the target group, and we want to listen on 80 and HTTPS. Or no, that, like that. And then we've got our, we don't need that. Okay, and let's get rid of the -0. We'll just call it target group. Okay. Actually, let's do, let's do default dash TG. So the default target group. Let's try to shorten that up a bit, but still make it descriptive. So that's that. So we need to grab something like this, put it here, say SG stack, and if I remember, I did ALB SG ID, but we'll check that. Oh, just ALB ID. All right. It's a rough and ready load balancer, but it'll do the trick for tonight. So let's go back over here. We'll say networking, ALB. We'll go back to this ugly file. Deploy ALB. Stack name is ALB. We do need the VPC. We do need the SG. We don't need any of this. This becomes networking. ALB. There we go. All right. Let's see how we do here. Oh, and you know what I haven't checked tonight? The Jays are playing. And all of a sudden, it's 9:30, the game will almost be over by now. All of a sudden it popped into my head. Let's just check the pipeline first. Okay, running. Oof, bottom of the ninth, 2-0. Oh man. That sucks. There's our load balancer going. Don't look. Sorry, I didn't see that until after I looked. 2-0 to the Yankees, man. We've been playing pretty good. Took 2 of 3 from the Yankees the first time around, 2 of 3 from the Rays. So, you know, maybe we can win the next 2 here and salvage this one. Okay, there's our load balancer. Let's go back over to CloudFormation, go to our load balancer, and see what happens here. Oof, no export named. Oh, I did it again. This is that bad cut and paste. Okay, so let's just check before I delete that error message. Somewhere in here there's a VPC stack reference. Yeah, see this one? It's just rushing again. Right, that's how we associate our target group to the VPC. Okay, so we'll just delete this stack. All right, and then since that stack's being deleted, we can do this. All right, perfect. He loves the Yankees, eh? Oh, that's funny. Did the Yankees win that night? That's the real question. Did they win? Here, I'm going to try something I'm going to use you as a guinea pig. I'm using a new piece of streaming software. Hey, look. That's neat. Hey, that's pretty cool. The Pirates pulled off a miracle. The Pirates were playing good baseball at the beginning of the year, weren't they? And then they just kind of tapered off, didn't they? My recollection is they started like in a bit of a tear. Okay, so there's our load balancer. Target group's already deployed. Just waiting on the ALB. This ALB is just not deployed very well at all. Like, we don't have access logging turned on. We don't have, some of the security features enabled, so it'll drop like malformed packets and stuff like that. There's a bunch of different things we can do. But again, in the interest of trying to get to the injector, it would be nice. We can come back and fix this later. I think because it's not failing on us, let's get rid of some of these windows. We're probably okay. If we go to EC2, we go to load balancers. Okay, there it is. Yeah, it's still provisioning, right? But we've got, oh, see that? It hasn't done anything yet. That's good. Cruz was injured for months. Hayes ate sunflower seeds at third all the time. And cell phones. Oh, I remember the cell phones falling out of pockets. Yeah, not a great look. Didn't the person slide into third and their phone popped out of their pocket? The umpire gave them their phone back or something like that. I think it was. All right, so let's assume that this is going to work. Okay. While we're waiting for this, what we could then do is go back over here, go to EC2, and set up our auto-scaling group, at least the shell of the auto-scaling group. So let's do, I have to look up this documentation, auto-scaling. I don't know if I have an auto-scaling group set up that we could use, so I think we could probably bang one out here pretty quickly. Okay, so here's what we need. All right, so I'll keep this, drag it over here a little bit, and we'll go back over here. And what we're going to do is we'll just say web server auto scaling. Okay, we got that. Launch configs, lifecycle hook, scaling policy. Okay, so yeah, we can get fancy, but for now this will do the trick. We won't name it. We don't need availability zones. We'll keep this absolutely bare minimum. What do we actually need? Required no, required no, required no. Cooldown required no. Desired capacity. It says required no, but I would assume that we're going to need something there. So we'll say properties, desired capacity, and we'll make this a parameter. So we'll say desired capacity, and we'll take it and we'll just dump that up here. Actually, let's do it like this. We'll put it here. Desired capacity. Is this a string or what is it? Yeah, it's a string. So it's a string default of 2. Okay, so that's that piece. What's next? Desired capacity type. We won't worry about that today. We can get fancy later on if we wanted to do some attributes. Health check grace period. The default is 0, which doesn't seem right to me. So we're going to do this. We'll make it 120. Okay, so 120 seconds there. We won't worry about putting it in a parameter. We need the health check type, and this is a comma separated value string of 1 or more health checks. So we're going to do this, and we're going to say EC2, and what do? Do they do ELB? Yeah, ELB. And let me just check the structure of that. Yeah, okay, so it's just a string. It seems weird, but that's okay. Our instance ID, we're not going to use instance IDs because we're going to use a launch template. So this is what we need here. We need launch template, and it is a template specification, which I think is just, yeah, go to here. So we're going to say launch template ID, and we'll just put our placeholder in there for the time being, and then we're going to say version. We're going to come back to these because I got to look these up, and we'll say to do there as well. So that's all we need for that. Template, lifecycle hook, we're not worried about. Load balancers. Okay, so a list of classic load balancers, not required. We're using an ALB. Maximum instance lifespan, max size we do need. And for now, we're going to just refer to desired. Okay, so we'll make the max, the min, and the, let's just add min size here too. We'll make these all the same. So it won't really scale for now. We'll just make sure that the scaling group comes to life. Min size. We won't worry about any sort of mixing, placement groups, tags. Okay, we need target group ARNs. Now, oh, see, sometimes they do this in uppercase, lowercase, so it's like that. No, lowercase s, like this. Now, what is this? It's a list of strings. So we need something that looks like this, and we'll put our placeholder there because we're gonna have to grab the ARN from our other file. Termination, VPC, zone identity, and we need tags, which we can grab off of. We don't have as many tags on our launch template for some reason, so we can do this. Okay, bang. Okay, so that's good. Now, here's our launch template. So we just need to look at, if we go back over to here, we just need to get the return values from the launch templates, which we should find under EC2. Launch template, and we're just looking for return values here. So we go return values. So we asked for launch template ID. Okay, so that is just, we can do this, ref that, and that should pick that up. The other thing that I'll do here, I know it's not really required, but it just, in my brain it makes sense. So we'll say that depends on the launch template. The version is the other thing we can do. This is a get attribute, so we're gonna go like this, get attribute, not get as. Okay, there we go. Let's try that again. Get attribute default version number. We're going to use the default version. Great. And then we need the target group ARNs. In this case, we are going to do one of these. Okay. And this is going to come from the ALB stack, which I don't think we have included up here, do we? No, see down here? So ALB stack type is a string, and then we just need to go over here and grab that. That should do the trick here. Where did it go? Right here. Okay. For now, we'll leave this web server definition in here. Just so that, oh look, I had all these references down here and I was looking up in the documentation. Just so to leave it running, and then we can use it for testing or something. Okay. Sorry, I just saw your message now. The memories are too painful. Yeah. Okay, so that's that. The only thing we need to do then is go over to our deploy script, and in here, we need to add ALB stack is this ALB, and then just add it down here. Ah. Oh man, my brain just went ALB stack equals ALB stack. There we go. All right. Let's see what happens here. Failed. I'm not watching. So I must have a typo in that new stack. So here we go. Unresolved dependencies. Owner. Oh, remember I was just saying it looks like we're missing some tags here. Unresolved. Owner email. Oh, I know what this means. This means in... what is that complaining about? That is in the EC2 template. Oh, isn't that weird? How did we deploy this before? Oh, you see what I did? This here, I'm blaming it on the massive amounts of yellow squiggly underlines that's messing me up. So this needs to go away. That actually needs to be here, right? We don't need to refer to the ALB stack in the ALB stack. But why in here it complained about owner email? I think when we copied that template over, remember I just mentioned in passing, I'm like, hey, we don't have all the things we should have here. So if we scroll here, see this? Owner email. That's really weird. What did I do there? We can just go like this. Right? And then it's going to pass in these values. Oh, a misspelt curious orbit. Wow. We'll just fix it here for now that I noticed it. Okay, so that should fix these things. Fix added missing tags. Try this again. We're getting close. We're getting close to the original idea behind this stream was the fault injection simulator. I don't know, the day just got away from me today. I was really hoping to have all of this kind of built and sitting there so that we could spend all of our time looking at the injection simulator, but I don't know. First off, September completely disappeared, and then today was just like, poof, it was gone. Really weird. Anybody else like not quite understanding where the heck September has gone? It's amazing. Okay, we'll go back to CloudFormation. And then what we needed to do was, yeah, we tried to do, not load balancer, EC2. So we should have a change set here. Yeah, so all we're doing is we're adding some auto scaling for our web server. Fingers crossed. Let's see what it does. Propagate at launch, not found in properties. Wow, I just scrolled through that and I didn't see that as being required. Here's EC2 auto scaling. Here's our auto scaling group. Propagate at launch. What was that saying? Where was that? So web auto scaling. Propagate at launch, not found in properties. Is there an example here? What have I missed? See, I was just looking here for propagate at launch. It must be hidden under one of these things, like a sub value or something like that. Scroll down and see if we can find it. Here's our launch template. Here's our auto scaling group. It also does not have it. What am I missing? Okay, let's go through this. Let me compare what we've got. So we've set desired capacity, health checks, health check type. Let me scroll down and look at health check type. Did they give us an example of one here? They don't. Some of these examples is just useless. Oh, wait, hold on. Here, there's some template snippets. I wonder if there's better examples here. Do they give us an option to say just show YAML? Okay, so this is our launch template, which we've defined already. There's our role. There's our instance profile. So this is essentially what we have. What am I missing here? Am I misreading this? Web server autoscaling is the logical ID. Propagate at launch not found in properties. I know there's a propagate at launch. I wonder if this is a strange message, because I know inside the launch template there's a value for that. Pretty sure that's where I remember seeing it. See this tag specification? Oh geez, maybe I'm confused. I thought... See this tag specification? Let's have a look here. Resource, no, that's the same thing. Resource type. What am I missing? Okay, let's just go through this and see. Not required, not required, not required, not required. Desired capacity is not required, but we did pass that. Health check grace period. And we could do this. Propagate. Tags, one or more tags. You can tag your autoscaling group and propagate the changes. Oh, you know what I've done? I've taken the tag values and just assumed they're exactly the same for the tag setup in autoscaling is the same as tag setup for other things, and it's not. If we go in here, there it is. See this? So what we need to do is in each of these, we need to go over here, and we just need to go like this. Propagate at launch. Is it a boolean? Yeah. So we'll say true. It's funny that they don't put that in the examples. Maybe if I didn't include tags, it would be fine. Okay, so that hopefully solves that. Fix added missing propagation statement. Give that a minute. Yeah. What do we got? 4 days left in September? Does September have 30 or 31 days? I can never remember. I always got to do the count them on your hand thing. My brain does not store that info. 30 days has September, right? Is that the little song you can sing too? So yeah, what, 4 more days? All right, there we go. Let's see if it works this time. 30? Okay, yeah. You'd think that you would learn that when you were like 10, right? At least I don't put my shoes in the wrong feet, which is good. Okay, what else? Availability zones cannot be empty. Oh, that's weird. Again, I didn't think that was required in here. Availability zones. I've missed something else. Okay, so I'm not reading, right? A list of availability zones where the autoscaling group can be created, used for launching into the default VPC subnet in each AZ when not using VPC zone identifiers. Ah, okay. What are VPC zone identifiers? A list of subnet IDs for virtual private cloud. Okay, so yeah, we do need these then. So what we can do is go back over here. Go here, and then it said a list, right? Yeah, it's a list of strings. What we can do is we can borrow from here and just change these. Okay, so the load balancer puts its resources into the public subnets, and in this case, we want these servers to go in our private subnets. Oh boy, man, there we go, like that. Okay. There we go. Change. There's our new change set. Let's see if we can get this up and running. Oh man. Value of VPC zone identifier must be a type of list of strings. I think I'm having too many RTFM moments tonight. Let's go back up and look at this. Zone identifier, a string. Oh, do you see what I did? Look at what I did. You know, you often think that cutting and pasting is going to save you time. Does it? Let's just call it zone ID. Go. Specifying EC2 in addition to other health checks is not supported. Remove EC2 from health check type and try again. Okay. I think that's another example of not reading the manual. I won't even show you what I'm typing here because this is a quick one. You know what? Now that I think about that, that makes perfect sense because you always have EC2 health checks in your autoscaling group, and then you can add additional health checks. So I put EC2 and ELB when we probably just needed ELB because EC2 is implied. It's always there. The 18th time is a charm. I'm feeling lucky this time. Let's see what happens. Okay, that's a good sign. Before it was failing immediately, right? Bang, bang, bang. Doesn't mean that the EC2 instance will actually pass the health check. Although we did that basic test, you'd think that it would be okay, right? Okay, that's good. That's good. So now if we go over to EC2, yeah, here come the new machines, all named the same, okay? There's our two new ones coming to life. And if we go to target groups, what should happen is they should, oh, look at that. Okay, that's great. So I think what we could do now is I think we need to make one change to the auto scaling group, because what I want to do to test out the fault injector is to have the auto scaling group actually be able to add and remove machines. And when we set the auto scaling group up, we set everything just to min, max, and desired of 2, and there's no auto scaling policy. So I think what we could do is just make a few minor changes there, and we should be in good shape. So what we'll do is here, we're going to say max capacity and min capacity, right? So we'll have to create these up here. Where is it? Desired. So we'll say max capacity is a string, and we'll say default of 20, and min capacity is also a string, and we'll set that default to 2. Okay, so that's an easy one. The other thing that we need to do, if we flip back to the documentation on auto scaling, is we need to create a simple scaling policy. And what I think we'll do is we'll just use something like a target tracker, and we'll set the target tracker to the CPU utilization. So we'll say, let's keep the CPU utilization as close to 50% as possible. And then we should be, if we can get the injector simulator to work, or whatever it's called, we should be able to simulate the CPU utilization going up and seeing it scale, I think. Okay. So let's see here. What do we got to do with this? Okay, I'll make sure I read this a little better this time. What we're going to do is we're going to go down here and we're going to say target tracking. Actually, let's do this. CPU scaling policy. Okay, and it is this, and I'm going to say depends on this. All right. The first thing is adjustment type. Okay, so adjustment type is conditionally required. It says it's required if our policy type is step scaling or simple scaling. So there's some of the original scaling policies that you used to be able to create. We aren't going to use either step scaling or simple scaling. So if I'm reading this right, we don't need adjustment types. Auto scaling group name, it is required. That's interesting. All right, so let's do auto scaling group name, and we will create this by joining a couple things together. Okay, so we're going to say join. Our delimiter will just be a dash. Whoops, dash. And then what we'll do is we'll just say ref application ref environment, and I'll just call it CPU scaling. We'll just call it CPU. I think that'll do the trick. Not a great name, but we can always adjust that later. The cooldown period in seconds that applies to specific simple scaling policies. When a cooldown period is specified, it overrides the default. It is not required, and it's only valid if our policy type is simple scaling, which we're not going to do. Estimated instance warm-up time. It's not needed if the default instance warm-up is defined for the group, which I think it is. Okay, this is valid if we have a policy type of target tracking or step scaling, which we are going to have. So I'm going to do this. We're going to go estimated warm-up, and we'll just make it, I think it's seconds. When warm-up is period specified, overrides the default. Yeah, I think we'll leave it like that. Metric aggregation type is valid only when we use step scaling, which we don't need. Minimum adjustment magnitude. That's valid again only if we have step scaling or simple scaling. Our policy type. Okay, policy type must be one of the following. Strange that it's not required. Oh, it says in the documentation, if you don't set a policy type, simple scaling is the default. So we're going to say target tracking. And I'm just going to hard code all these to see if they work. We aren't going to do predictive scaling. Scaling adjustment is only required for simple scaling. Step adjustments only required for step scaling. Target tracking configuration. That's what we need, since we're using a target tracking policy. Now, what is this? This has got an interesting configuration. Okay. Customized metric specification. We don't want to use a custom metric. We're just going to use average CPU utilization. Disable scale in. We don't want to do that. We want to scale out, add resources, and scale in, remove resources. A predefined metric specification. I think that's what we want. Okay, so this is predefined metric specification. And this is our predefined metric. Is it called type? Yep, type. And in this case, we want to get the average CPU utilization of the auto-scaling group. Resource label. Okay, so this is a bit of a pain. Is this required? Conditional. Okay, here, I'll show you what I'm looking at. Okay. So this is the resource label that uniquely identifies a specific application load balancer target group from which to determine the average request count served by your auto-scaling group. Oh, okay. You can't specify a resource label unless the target group is attached to an auto-scaling group. You can create the resource label by appending the final portion of the load balancer ARN and the final portion of the target group ARN to a single value separated by a /. Ugh. The format is like this, where app load balancer name is the final portion of the load balancer ARN, and then we need the target group. Wow. It's conditional though. It's interesting because it says here, a label that uniquely identifies a specific application load balancer target group from which to determine the average request count. So this is, see up here, you can use the request count coming from the load balancer as a target in your tracking, your scaling policy, right? But we're using average CPU utilization. I'm going to see if we can leave that off for this, because when I read this, I think you only need to use it when you are using number of requests coming from a load balancer, which we're not. Okay, so let's see if we can skip that one. And then I think we do need to specify here our target value. Yeah, so in our case, we're going to say target, is it the same structure? Yeah, target value, and again, I'll hard code this. So our target value is, we want to keep the average CPU utilization for the auto-scaling group as close to 50% as we can get. That's what that means. Okay, so that's good. You know what's interesting? How do we associate this? I'm wondering, like, how do we associate a scaling policy with the auto-scaling group? Like, I don't see anything in here. Oh, see, I misread this. This is the name of the auto-scaling group. So I put auto-scaling group name in there thinking we were naming the scaling policy, but we're not. That's how we tie the scaling policy to the auto-scaling group. So to fix that, what we need is we just need to understand the return values from this. And if we do a ref, it returns the resource name. Okay, so that's an easy fix. What we can do is we can go in here and just change this to ref that. So now create the target scaling policy and associate it to that auto-scaling group. the web server autoscaling group. Okay, let's try it, see what it does. Okay, we can go back to CloudFormation. Did we put that all under here? Where did that go? Oh, sorry, it's under EC2. Yeah, we put all the compute resources here. So we're adding our scaling policy and we're modifying our web server autoscaling group. Oh yeah, remember we changed. Did we actually change the values of that though? Remember we set the maximum and minimums? Oh yeah, we did right here. So we set some defaults. Okay, so that makes sense. Let's execute that. Property validation. Required key, target value not found. Okay, so I must have had a typo there somewhere because I'm sure I had that. Predefined extraneous key, target value not permitted. See right here. Oh, look what I did. This has got to go back. Oops, not that way. Back here like that. Let me just double check this to be sure I've got the spacing right. So let's launch template. We want to do... Sorry, where is that? Auto scaling, scaling policy. And we are in the target tracking config right here. Yeah, see, I had it bumped in one tab. It needs to be back there. Okay, so I think that should fix that. Always takes forever when you're sitting here watching it. Oh, what did I do now? Oh, patience. Look what's happening. It's still in. Oh, this is ugly. Hopefully it'll finish this properly. It's still in rollback cleanup state. So when I tried to push the update, it's like, hey, you're not in a state that is updatable. Okay, so while we're waiting for that, why don't we push our luck a little and go over here and do AWS CloudFormation fault injector. I'm sure it's in here because I saw a little example of it somewhere. Let's see here. Let's do the old search fault. There we go. So it only has one thing that we have to provide. This is our experiment template. Now I'm sure there's lots of additional references in this thing, but let's start to work on this a bit and see if we can get it sort of sorted out. Where would I put this under a module? What do they, if we go to the main AWS site, you know how they do this thing here? End user computing. I like to kind of organize my stuff against these. There's Resilience Hub. Huh, I wonder where they would put it. Analytics, application integration, whoops. Won't be blockchain, business apps. Nope. We already checked here, but I'll just check again. No, contact containers, database developer tools. Oh, there it is. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll do this. We'll create a module here and we'll just call it dev tools. Okay, and then we'll just say file fis.yaml. Okay, and we will just grab, for now, this, and we'll dump it here. So FIS, and for the time being, we're going to nuke all of the non-tag related parameters. We'll just blow them all away. Good. All right. So what do we need here? The first thing is the actions for the experiment, a description, log configuration, the role ARN, stop condition tags and targets. Okay. Now here, I'll show you what I'm looking at. This first piece is what we're after. And what we're not going to stop instances. What we're going to do is we're going to try to figure out the CPU stress test one. So I wonder if they give us an example under here. Let's actually type this in a bit first. If we go back over here, we can say FIS. Actually, let's do this. FIS CPU stress. Okay, and its type is this. Properties. The first thing we need is an action definition. And all this is a key value. You know what this almost looks like? It looks to me, and I haven't read the documentation on this, I just kind of was poking around a little bit. This sort of looks like to me, see under the action section, it says stop instances, action ID is this, parameters is this. What they're doing here is I would suspect they are using the automation documents that are part of SSM. This looks like how you would set up an SSM solution. I wonder if they give us an example of how to do this. AWS service name action type, a description, a parameter, start after, and targets. Yeah, they don't. For more information, see actions. Okay. Ah, here we go. Action identifiers. For a complete, how many, oh man. For a complete list of all the actions, go here. We want EC2 actions, and we want to, nope, that's not it. Reboot, send, stop, or terminate. I think in the example I saw there was a send command. Okay, so let's see if we can figure this out. What we're going to do is we're going to say action ID, right? We're going to say action ID. And if I'm reading this correctly, what we need to then do is we need to put this as our action ID. And that is basically the way that we can tell it to send an SSM command. And in here, see, it's documented telling you the parameters that you need to pass to it. Okay, so you can see again the ARN of the document. In the console, this parameter is completed for you and corresponds to one of the pre-configured SSM documents. So let's open up one of these. And here you go. This is the guy we're after right here. Okay. Well, this is kind of cool. You've got a bunch of different things you can run against it. Okay, so let's go back and look at how they did the example right here. Actually, back one layer. So description, actions, stop instances. Okay, so this looks a little different than what I did. There's the action ID and then the parameters. I wonder... Specifies an action for the template. Action ID, description. My structure looks correct to this, right? Okay, so let's stay on the path of what they've got in the documentation here. We're going to say description, simulate CPU. Actually, let's just keep it simple. CPU stress test, right? And then we have parameters. So we're going to say parameters, and this is where the key value pieces come in. See how they've got them structured here? And I would think what we need are these. These are the parameters. So we can say document ARN, right? And there's a list of pre-configured FIS SSM documents, and this is the one that I'm after. Action type, there's the ARN. Okay, so what we're going to do with this is we're going to go and we're going to run a sub command on it, because you can see here we want these to be specific to the region where this is deployed, like that. Right? What else do we have here? Document version is optional. Document parameters is conditional. The required and optional parameters that the document accepts. The format is JSON with keys that are strings and values, and then duration. You must enter the number of seconds, minutes, or hours. PT 1 minute represents 1 minute. You know, let's go here. Let's go to Systems Manager. Maybe. And this is an SSM document. So we could go down here, we could find the document. Yeah, this is going to be, how do we search here? Okay, so we could do document name prefix equals AWS FIS. Will that do the trick? There we go. So this is what we want it to run. And what we can do, so here are the parameters, and they have a bunch of default values. So duration seconds, this is required. So how long do we want to run this stress test for? If we go back over to this guy, so duration. So if I'm reading this correctly, then what we need is duration of, and we're going to say ref duration. Ooh, no, because we need to pass this in a specific format like this. So we could maybe do a sub command here and say PT test duration. Okay, and we're gonna specify minutes. So now we could take this and put it up here and say type string default. We'll run the test for 10 minutes. I don't know, I'm just making it up. Okay, we'll do that. Where did it go? So that's what we've just done. Specify the number of stressors to use. Default is 0, which means all CPUs. Sounds good to me. We'll try it. Load percent, specify the target CPU load percentage. Valid numbers are between 0 no load and 100 full load. Again, we'll leave that to the default and then install any dependencies. I don't know, guess we'll see, right? Okay, so let's go back to here. We've got action, we've put in a description, we put our parameters in, start after and targets. Not required, not required. The name of the action that must be completed before the current action state starts. So we must be able to string together multiple actions in the stress in the injector simulator. We won't worry about that. We're just gonna run this single test. Targets feels like it should be there, but I wonder if we can maybe pull that info from somewhere else. Actions, targets. See, they're specifying targets in a couple locations. Okay, let's go read about this a little more. Maybe there's something here we have to do. The action runs on the target resources that you specify. After you define a target, you can specify the name. What I would like to do is basically say, run this CPU stress test against any EC2 instance that is tagged with the tag key of, I don't know, let's just call it project FIS demo or something like that. I wonder if we can do it that way. See here, resource tags. Okay, let's figure this out because it looks like this is a reference to this. All right, let's see if we can. We'll go back to actions and we'll have a look at that value. So here, targets. It's a, what's it say? The targets for the action. Oh, this is confusing. Key value. I think what we'll do is we'll mimic what's in this example to get started because I don't quite understand what how they're showing us this. So if we go down to the example, I'm going to make it look just like this. Okay. Oh, sorry, I'm sharing the wrong screen this whole time. I was bouncing around trying to figure out if we needed targets in the action, but it looks like here, target instances, one random instance, and then we've got sort of almost like a logical name for it or something like that. Yeah, you don't see my mouse. Oh, yeah, here. Yeah, you can't read my mind? Of course, right? All right, so I'm just gonna mimic this little guy right here and see if we can figure out this piece. So let's go back over here and we're gonna say targets, and we're gonna say the instances are just, let's just call it web servers, because I think this is just a key value combination. We could call it whatever we want. And then we've got targets, and this looks like it's just a reference to whatever we called that key value pair earlier on, so web servers. And in the example, they're using resource tags, and this is our tag value. So what we'll do is we'll just call this is our key. So we're gonna say our key is going to be, let's do this, stress test, and we'll make it true. Right? Resource type is going to be AWS EC2 instance. And then selection mode in the documentation, it says count 1. Let's go figure out what that is though. So if I flip back over to the documentation and we go to this, targets. Okay, it's an experiment template target. The filters to apply to identify targets using specific attributes. Parameters, we don't have those either. resource ARNs. So I guess if we wanted to put particular or specific ARNs in here, but we've got resource tags and resource types. And then selection mode. Okay. Scopes the identified resources to a specific count of the resources at random or a percentage of the resources. All identified resources are included in the target. So run the action on all the targets. That's the default. Run the action on the specified number of targets. So we've got it as 1. Why don't we do something a little fancier and we'll do this. We'll say percent is 50, right? Run it on 50% of the identified targets. I'm just not sure about this structure here. It doesn't look like what they have. Like the structure of it doesn't look right here based off of the example that they have. Targets, key values. I'm just not sure in the document, in the example here. See this piece? Right here, targets, instances, one random instance. It seems to me like this is a reference for this, which is kind of what I mimicked in our sample. I think I'll leave it and just see what it does. Stop conditions is kind of like a guardrail. If something goes sideways, when do we tell it to stop? Do we need that? I think in our environment, does it matter? It is required. Okay. Well, we're gonna borrow again from here, and we're just gonna say stop conditions none. Okay. So we'll go like this. We're gonna say stop conditions, and let's just check the structure of this because they say a list of something. If we check here, source and value. Specify the source. Specify AWS CloudWatch alarm if the stop condition is defined in an alarm. Specify none if there is no stop condition. That's easy. In our little environment, we'll just run the test for 10 minutes. What's the harm that could happen? So we'll go back over here and we'll say dash source is none. And I don't think we really need that here. Stress test. I'm going to leave that because I don't want it to be a boolean. I want it to be a string. Tags and roles. So we do need to reference our role. And that should be relatively painless. We can say role ARN. Is that how they have it? Yeah. And then in this case, we can use what we've done throughout the examples here and do this. And this will be IAM stack, and then we just need to get the value here of our export for the FIS role ID. Well, actually the role ARN. So that's this. We can go down here and paste that in there, and then we need to make sure we add IAM stack up here. So we'll add that here. IAM stack is type string. Right, and then in the example, you can tag your, see these are just the regular tags. The tags to apply the experiment. Look at this is interesting. If you update the tags, it requires replacement of the experiment, and it is required. Well, that's weird. Okay. What we'll do, is it the same structure as everything else? It's not. See this tags key value? That looks a little different than what we've done in the other one. See the structure of it? So we will do something that looks similar. We're going to say tags. And for now, let's keep it really simple. And we'll just say environment ref environment. Like I'm not sure if do we just add. It doesn't really, it's not very clear. So let's try it like that. Oh, there's so many things that could go wrong in here, right? This, we need to make a change in our auto-scaling group and add that tag. Remember the propagate tags at launch thing? So these tags don't exist at this point. So even if this deploys, if I understand this correctly, it's not actually going to run the test because it won't identify any EC2 instances as targets. Let's do this first. We're going to go over here, and we're going to just take this, modules, dev, tools, and what did we call it? Just FIS. And we'll push our luck and go over to the ugly file here, do this, and say deploy FIS. FIS. We said that it needed the IAM stack. Right, so we can go IAM stack is that, and this becomes dev tools FIS. We can get rid of these. All right. Let's see what happens. I'm going to give this a 1 in 100 chance of deploying. I'm gonna bet that it fails on the validation phase. There's a typo or something. Well, at least it didn't fail before I got to the page. That's a positive, right? Still hasn't failed in the validate phase. Okay, so that's good. All right, we made it a little further. Let's see what happens. I should have put the FIS at the top so it would deploy it first. Since we don't have any of those job definitions in our stack. Okay, so that worked. Let's go over here. I'm going to leave that window open just in case we have to come back. Go to CloudFormation. Oh, what? Oh, remember this didn't work. What did we try to do here? Oh, we were adding our auto-scaling. So let's try that one again too. And in theory, we can deploy these both at the same time. Doesn't matter. Let's see what happens. Okay, so that hasn't failed yet. This has failed. Okay. Required key description not found. Actions, action ID. Validation failed for resource with message. Required key description. I'm pretty sure I added that. Maybe I just have a bad spacing again. Oh, I think this here needs to be, it shouldn't be under action, if I remember. I think I've got that in the wrong spot. If we look at this, see here? So actions, description, what we should do is we should take the description and put it there. Like that. Okay. So let's go back over here. We can delete this stack because it's failed. Bye-bye. And we'll just re-push. We'll re-push our stress injector test. Did our other stack work? Hey, this worked. EC2. So if we go over to the EC2 console and we go auto scaling, under here now we should have automatic scaling, and here's our policy. All right. They were basically saying, hey, keep the CPU utilization as close to 50% as possible. And oh, did we get in, if we go to auto scaling, see here, 2 instances, so desired capacity, minimum capacity, maximum capacity is 20. Here's our activity. There really hasn't been anything. Oh, here. It just launched those 2 machines and it's been sitting there. Okay. So if we go back over here now. Oh, this is still deleting? How can that still be deleting? That probably means our pipeline failed because I pushed that too fast. Yeah, see. Oops. Okay, there we go. And instead of running the whole pipeline again, we'll just run this one job again. Oh, hey, Dodo2, thanks for the follow. Appreciate that. If you're still sticking around, thanks. I just noticed it now. All right, so let's try this again. Okay. Expected JSON found string under targets. Required key action ID not found. Under action targets, extraneous key instances not permitted. Yeah, that target section in the example just doesn't seem right. So if we go back over here, let's try this again. So let's look at actions first. Here's this. Because the first thing is it says that we don't have an action ID. But we do. I wonder if it's just the fact that it's not liking the targets for our action. And this is a map of a string. Key value. You know what? Let's try something. We can kind of work backwards here since this is the first time we've tried this. What we could do is we could just go fault injector right here. And we could try to create this through the management console, and then we could run a command against it to see the structure of everything. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to call this test template. We won't worry about a name. Add our action. The name of the action, the description, action type SSM, send command. So this name here is, let's just call it test stress. Start after, we don't need that. Here's their targets, and it's just said instances target 1. Okay, we'll leave that there. It's asking us for the ARN of the document to run, so we can copy that out of our CloudFormation template, which goes in here, and we just need to change this to CA Central-1. Parameters that are optional. A JSON string of the parameters to pass. Yeah, duration, length of time to monitor the SSM command. We'll say 10 minutes. That's kind of what we did in the other one. This document parameter thing, I'm not quite sure what they're expecting because they're asking for a JSON string here. You know what we could do? Let's go back to AWS FIS, actually do a fault injector. I wonder if in the release blog post, if I scroll down, read the blog, I wonder if there's just a screenshot of maybe how they set that up. Yeah, see, they don't, there's our action parameters, specify the parameters. They don't have really anything here, do they? Okay, well, let's push on with what we've got. We'll leave it like that, leave that. We'll only do the one action. Here's our targets, and in here, you must save the action before editing. Okay, up here, save. Right? This is interesting. So you define here the target, which is just a name. A target will be automatically created for the action if one does not already exist. Additional targets can be created below. Okay. So here's our target. We can instance selection mode. So in this case, we're going to say tags again. We'll add a tag, and what did we do in our example? We said stress test is true, and we'll say save. Okay, and then edit here again, Actions, value, selection mode. So we'll say, we'll make this exactly the same. We'll say 50%, save. And then we need a role. And we created this role earlier on. That's our role. Stop conditions, we'll say, actually, do we need, okay, so it's just saying it's optional. So we'll leave that empty. This is one thing we didn't do. So we're going to say add to CloudWatch log group ARN. So we don't have a log group. So this is something that we haven't created. Actually, let's leave it off for now. We can always create that after and just see how it works. So create the template. You have not specified a stop action. A stop condition can help prevent your experiment from going out of bounds. That's fine. Create. Okay, well that worked, right? We haven't started our experiment yet, which makes sense because we don't have any targets. So why don't we go, and for now, I know this is kind of not the way we should do it, but let's go to our instances that are running, that are launched through the through the autoscaling group. And we're just gonna type in for now, we're gonna manage a tag, and we'll add stress test true. Okay, and we're gonna add that to the two that are launched through, these are all our autoscaling groups. So we'll say stress test true. We can add this tag into the autoscaling group configuration later on. So now that means we've got two targets for our stress test if we've got this set up correctly, and we're saying run the stress test on 50% of the machine. So it should run it on 1. Let's see what it does. Start our experiment. Logging is not enabled. You know, maybe we should do this. Let's do this again. We'll do this really just quickly. So we'll go to CloudWatch, and we'll create a log group. And we'll go here and we'll just call it FIS. Actually, let's do this. Twitch/FIS demo. We'll expire this after 5 days. We'll just use the built-in encryption. Okay, and if we go back over here, we'll say cancel. Can we edit our job? Actions. Is it just under here? Where did it go? Okay, so we'll say start, and we can configure logging. And it's logged me out. Okay, let's try it again. So let's go fault injector. We have our experiment template here. We'll say start, and then we can configure logging. There we go. I don't know where this was in the setup. Here we go. So we're going to send it to this, and we need the ARN of the log group. So we'll go back to CloudWatch logs. And what did I call it? Well, we can search for Twitch. There we go. And I need the ARN, so we can copy that. And we can dump that here. Right? It's an emu, not demo. Version 1, version 2. To be honest, I didn't even know there was multiple versions. We'll do that, and we'll say update. What doesn't it like? It's not letting me finish here. I like when... Why won't this work? View. Okay, so it's picking up our log group. I've heard if you just keep clicking it, it'll eventually work. Can we go to version 1? Does it make a difference? I wonder, okay, so let's do this. I just want to see if this will work. So we'll just say cancel yes, start experiment. Don't worry about our logging for now, okay? Yeah, in this case, some type of warning would be okay, right? Let's just start our experiment and we'll be like, yes, we're fine. go for it. Do we get like, okay, so state initiating. I wonder if does it give us like a view of anything at least? Okay, it's running. Timeline. We're not going to have anything here. I wonder if we go to CloudTrail, I wonder if maybe you know how we set up the role ARN at the very beginning for FIS? All we did, actually, let's go have a look at it. If we go IAM, we go roles, we just called it FIS. It's this one here. What permissions does it have? EC2, KMS, SSM, SSM. So it doesn't have any access to CloudWatch logs. I wonder if maybe that issue that we were having there was, it wasn't telling us, but it couldn't write to the CloudWatch logs group or something. Maybe it was trying to test if it could do that. I'm just going to see here. How old are these? 2240. So these are a long time ago. We might have to let this run for a bit and see what it does. A required parameter for the document is missing or undefined. Bah! I figured that would happen because if you remember back when we pulled up the document itself, if we go, let's close all these down. If we go back to, what was it? It was Systems Manager, right? And we went to Documents. And in here, we searched for prefix equals, it was just AWS FIS, I think. Yeah, see here in the stress test. And we looked at details. Duration in seconds, that's required, but everything else has a default value. So what did we miss? And we don't have any log events. That sucks. To run SSM actions, we must have the SSM agent on the target, which we do because we connected to those machines already using SSM. Can we go here? Do we have a log somewhere here? These are interesting. I wonder if this is related somehow. Invoke inspector SSM plugin, configure inspector SSM plugin. Yeah, this is to do with inspector, obviously. Yeah, I thought there was a way we could. I wonder if we can go to this document, find the document again. Right, so prefix equals AWS FIS. Go in here. Let's run it. Let's just run it from right here. Duration in seconds required. So in seconds, ugh. So if we wanted to run this for 1 minute, 60 seconds, 10 minutes would be 600 seconds, right? Okay, we'll leave all those as default. We're going to do the same thing. We'll say stress test is true. We won't output this anywhere, but see this here? We can do enable CloudWatch logs and then our log group name. Let's go back over here and do this. Will it write to that? Let's see. Choose an alarm. We won't worry about that. We'll say run. Please fix the above errors before resubmit. Oh, look, you gotta click add. There you go. Okay, try that again. Run. Hey! Okay, so there we go. In progress on the 2 machines. So I wonder if we go here, we go to EC2. Let me turn this off. This is the observer. Which one? I shouldn't have named these all the same, right? Maybe these are all launched through auto-scaling. Yeah, these must all have come from auto-scaling. But I only tagged 2 of them. So which 2 have the tags? Stress test equals true. So I wonder if we go to just here, monitoring, CPU isn't doing anything. Says in progress. Is it writing anything to CloudWatch logs? Let's leave that window open. If we go to the log group, nothing here either. Maybe it's like still initializing or something? Anything change here? That's CPU is still doing nothing. Let's see, is this one doing something? Status checks, or sorry, monitoring. Nope. Nope. Topic testing does not install packages automatically. Use repo query blah 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 to list packages. Okay, so that's interesting. It says success here. Installing required dependencies. Okay. Dependencies resolved. Installing. Complete. Topic testing does not install packages automatically. I wonder what that means. I don't know what that means. If we go back here, still says that it's running. Maybe it had to install some stuff. Well, it looks like it installed some stuff, right? That one does not have the stress test equals true. You know what we could do? We could do it like this instead. Let's go over to CloudWatch. We'll go to metrics, all metrics. We'll go EC2, and we'll say per instance metrics. And we'll find, there's CPU utilization, and we'll just do it over the last hour. So no change there. And then let's do this, and let's go over here and say reload it every minute, and we'll just see what happens. And then while that's doing its thing, definitely doesn't look like anything's happening, does it? This looks exactly the same, just installing the tools. So this is the step name. See this? Install the dependencies. I wonder if because we have an error message here, it just failed on that? I don't know. If we go back to the document, see these are the steps. So there's our action where it's installing the dependencies, right? And then it runs a shell script which executes our stress test. So it's like, yeah, it's 2 stages or 2 steps. Step 1, install everything that it needs. And then step 2 is actually execute the stress test. It doesn't look like it ever made it to this. I wonder if it's just timing out now. Well, you know what? In 5 minutes it'll be 3 hours. And I think what we'll do is we'll call it at the 3-hour mark. And I'll do a little more reading, and we can come back and finish this up via CloudFormation, the way it should be done. Here it's like, why is step 2 not here? Maybe because of this. Topic testing does not install packages automatically. Let's do one other thing. Let's go down to automation. Here to documents again. Let's do document equals AWS FIS. Run IO test, run CPU test, run a memory test. There's lots of interesting things here. Can we just do... Well, you know what? If I wanted to do a different FIS test. So experiments. Oh, look, it failed again. A required parameter. Is this the actual one that we just ran? Creation time. That's kind of confusing. Experiments. Okay, so these are your templates, and then these are the experiments that you ran using those templates. Okay. Yeah, Kevin, same time-ish, probably 7 or 8. I'm teaching a class this week, so starting a little late. I'll do some more reading on this tomorrow and see if I can find it. A required parameter for the document is missing, or an undefined parameter was provided. That's weird. Yeah, I'll do a little more reading. I want to do one thing. Let's do here. Experiment, create an experiment. Action. EC2. And what we're going to do is we're going to terminate an instance. Okay. And then we have to save this. And then in here, we're going to say edit by tags, edit a tag. It's going to be stress test true. Selection mode will be count, and we're going to do 1, like what they did in the other example. We can use our existing role, and we won't do anything here. We won't do this. Create the template. And then start the experiment. Lots of warnings here as we try this out. Okay, running. Oh, look. Maybe I just needed to be more patient. It's scaling. So if we go to metrics, look at that. It just took a long time for it to do it. Oh, that's cool. So what's happening here, this is actually a really interesting way, interesting use case, because a lot of times one of the things is, okay, you have a scaling policy, but did you test the scaling policy? And yes, you can use lots of other, there's tons of load testing tools and everything out there. But this is interesting because it's all in the AWS console. So we're not installing tools anywhere or anything like that. I wonder, I'll see if I can figure out that CloudWatch log piece, and then this will run for 10 minutes, and it should start scaling in again. All right. Oh, that's pretty cool. And if we go over to our auto-scaling group, we could select this, and we could go activity, and there we go, right? Things are coming to life. And this is probably right here, the instance that was terminated through our other experiment. And that's neat. And you can see it ramping up, right? Changing its capacity. The other thing that would be interesting to do in a test with this is, I know we didn't do it today, but what you can do inside your auto-scaling group is as part of, you say, hey, I want a minimum of 2 machines and a maximum of 20. You can also provide to it sort of the mix that you want. Hey, I want to do like 75% spot instances, 25% on demand. These are the instance types that I want you to use. So you could also use this fault injector to kind of test out how that might work. Yeah, this is neat. Leave that open. Did it start writing to this at all? Nothing here. This has got to be a permissions problem somewhere. Okay, so if we go back to here, so this is experiment completed. Do we get anything in here? There's our timeline and nothing, because we don't have that logging set up. It's interesting that this says failed. So what oh, you know what it is? Sorry, it's because it failed through here, but we had it running. Okay, I see what's happening now. So we didn't get it to run through the fault injector, but what we did was we went over here, remember, and we ran. Where's the run command? Here. So there's our stress test that's running right now. And this, I know what's happening now with these, because what we've got is we use inspector at the organizations level. So as it's launching these machines, inspector's saying, hey, I need to configure the inspector setup on all these machines. So that's why we have all these jobs running. And this here, there we go. So it finished on that one. What does it do here? Oh, there we go. See that? Dispatching hogs 2 CPUs, successful run in 600 seconds. So I wonder if once it finishes, we should start to see it scale back in, right? An instance was launched in response to an unhealthy instance needing to be replaced. That must be when we terminated it. So what I would expect is we would start to see the CPU come back down, and when that happens, what autoscaling will do is start scaling in to get back to our target of having, the average autoscaling group the average CPU utilization for the aggregate of the autoscaling group as close to 50% as we can get. Did it over here if we go this way? So it's level, we basically are pegging those machines at 100%. Still running. I'll let it run for a bit longer. And then what I'll do is I'll figure this out. In CloudFormation, I'll do a little testing and some more reading, and we'll come back and get it all built into CloudFormation and deploy it all from scratch in one shot and see it work. So I think I'll call it here. We're just over 3 hours. Made some good progress. It's a shame that we couldn't get this working in CloudFormation tonight, but we had so much of that pre-work to get done tonight, which took me way longer than I would have thought. So pretty neat, right? Maybe we can do some other experiments and test some things out. So that's it for now, folks. Thanks for hanging out with me for the night, and we might be back again this week, depending on what my schedule looks like. It'd be cool to get this done. Otherwise, we'll be back next Tuesday at about 8 p.m. Eastern again. So take care, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.